And welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Planet Mullins podcast. We're in season 7, and my wonderful, very esteemed guest, who is um, multiple degrees in music and music business, and has quite an interesting story to tell with his combination of R&B knowledge and the hospitality industry, which I think is a really unique combination. And we're here today to talk about his new book, which is already a USA Today bestseller. It's called The Quiet Storm. Please say hello to Amani Roberts, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, yes, Rob. Thank you very much for having me. Excited to chat with you.
Yeah, actually, me too, because I've spent the day with your material, and I was intrigued right away with the title Quiet Storm because in the 90s, when I was releasing R&B related instrumental jazz music, that was a radio format that played me a lot.
hmm
And I
Yeah,
hadn't seen those words, The Quiet Storm, in a long time.
yeah. That radio format is part of the reason I chose it as the title, in addition to the song by Smokey Robinson.
uh,
And yeah, because I grew up listening to The Quiet Storm on WHUR, Howard University Radio.
oh yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, the thing that was nutty for me about just kind of reliving all these amazing eras that you historically document about R&B artists in your book is, well, first I was struck by just how much, whether people even know it or not, they've been influenced by this music.
Yeah, it's like what's this? Like it's kind of hidden in plain sight. Like they think they hear these samples and things is hidden in plain sight, but we have to kind of go on record to show people where some of the music they listen to today comes from.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And then when I got to I mean, I kind of like to dive right into maybe the main topic, and then we can go more specific about the history. But what I found intriguing about your book is that you're speaking about the decline of R&B. You're talking about the lack of groups that are out there, the infrastructure that supported black artists completely disappearing, Telecommunications Act of 1996, which really affected me too as an artist because they started limiting radio and all that. So why don't we start with that Telecommunications
Yeah.
Act, and you can explain to everyone what happened there because I know people are going to want to know about that.
Yeah, the Telecommunications Act of 1996 was signed into kind of order by President Bill Clinton. It was supposed to diversify radio. It was supposed to give more opportunity for local radio stations to play various types of music, give them additional funding, just help local radio within the community.
Okay.
What ended up happening is that you had these three major radio companies, iHeartMedia, Town Square Media, and Cumulus Media, buy up the majority of all the radio stations across the country. Once they did that, they quickly shifted to a more playlisting format, which is more economical. So you could be in Seattle, Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Dallas, Texas. Generally speaking, you're going to hear the same songs on the radio on a playlist. And how that particularly affected R&B as a whole, specifically R&B groups, which is what I studied, is
Right.
that most R&B groups start out with a regional and organic growth. For example, you'll have Boyz II Men started getting big in Philadelphia, where they're from.
Okay.
TLC got really, really big in like Atlanta.
Mm.
You had a group called Shy, which got big because their song got played on WPGC in DC. Destiny's
Ah.
Child grew because they got big in Houston first. So, and then, of course, we don't even need to talk about Motown, Detroit. But most of these groups got big first in their regional and city areas and then grew. But when you take away the opportunity for local radio to play some of the local groups, it limits the progress and limits the marketing and the ability for these groups to reach a bigger audience.
I see. Well, I experienced that too on the jazz side when smooth jazz kind of came around that same era because when everything consolidated, I don't really see anything in any media consolidation ever benefiting those of us that do the music. Do you?
No,
I mean,
it's
right? Who were the R&B artists that benefited from that? I guess maybe just a couple of the very top, like I don't know, Jay-Z and Beyonce or something,
well,
because they were the bigger ones. But like you said, it always has grown out of the local regional thing and then becomes a national thing. And then when you cut that pipeline off, then what are the artists supposed to do?
Yeah, it just makes it more challenging to reach their audiences and their communities. If there were R&B groups who, like, if you look at 96, 97, 99, you still would have like Destiny's Child was really big. You would
Mhm.
have groups like Drew Hill that was pretty big, Jagged Edge. But the problem is that the groups that are in the pipeline, there are no more groups in the pipeline that kind of come after them. That's why when you hit mid 2000s, 2005, after Destiny's Child went solo, things fall off a quick cliff very quickly and have yet to return to near the level for the groups. And that's the problem
Mhm.
is that these groups weren't able to grow locally to build the pipeline. And then we saw the results 10 years later, basically. It took 10 years, then the pipeline was there. So you'll still have legacy groups that will get played on certain stations, but it's not nearly to the level as it was in its heyday.
Okay, so really I guess that proves my assertion that the media consolidation is not ever really good for the artist because, you've got a degree in music business, you know the drill. You start out playing in local clubs and then you make your first couple of albums. And then for me, I had regional success in Colorado, then New Mexico, and then Utah. And it was all public radio.
Right.
And then, which is already, that's a whole nother conversation, right? And then Quiet Storm stations started playing my stuff. But I had those opportunities. And now I think it's a lot harder because the society has changed too. Like, who's going out to hear a local R&B band at night now? Is there anybody still doing that?
Well, yeah, they're in different areas of the country that definitely it's just that when you think back to you would hear your local R&B group at a venue playing at a gig. Then you
Okay,
would hear them on the radio. And
right.
then you would see them at a gig. So we're missing that element because radio's not playing them. And even though people can stream their songs and stream their favorites, radio is still a very, very widely consumed media, like a place in media. And so that's kind of what's missing. Like you'll have these groups and they'll tour and they'll play locally, but that one major free marketing element in terms of radio,
Mm,
relatively free, although that's kind of a oxymoron,
right.
would play them, and that's missing. So it's just much more difficult. In addition, you think back to like 96, 95, like really EDM, electronic dance music wasn't around. There are all these other different genres of music that are much, much more popular. So we're
Mm,
kind of fighting for the same ear, listening time. So it just makes
uh,
it more challenging because EDM is big now. Hip hop was already big back then. It's even bigger now. Now you have more like Latin artists playing, which is great. I love Latin artists, but
mm,
this is just something kind of a quiet storm that's causing less groups to be played, even Afro beats on a piano, which I love. So
mm.
there's so many more genres that are becoming more popular that it's just, R&B groups have to kind of figure out a way to first form, second stay together, and third stay together for long enough so they can get their music onto the big stations and just get more exposure.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. And then I'm not, a music business expert. Really, I've never had any jobs outside of music my whole life, but I looked recently at the Spotify charts and I don't see any bands in the top 100
Yeah.
anymore. Like you might have out of 100 artists, there might be two bands out of 100.
Yeah.
And everybody else is a solo artist. And now they have the AI artist, which is
Hmm.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, were you ever in any bands? Do you play? I see a
I,
piano. Did you play keyboards in any bands?
well, I grew up playing in a jazz band in high school. And so
Mm,
that's what I did there. But you're right. Like, and I'm just focused on R&B as a genre. But if you look at rock, same. They're suffering from the same thing. Very few rock bands, even pop,
mm,
is different. Now you might have an artist might do different features with different artists, which kind of that's kind of the format now. But a true band, you'll have some country groups that are bands for sure.
mm.
Country works, but in the pop, rock, and R&B space, just the number of bands have declined. And that's, I just focus on R&B, but that's just because bands are more expensive. They're
Mm,
more apt to having disputes.
right.
Record labels will really choose to sign one solo artist because then they have more control over them. And you have a band.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just it's just different. And so the game has changed because the recession, the music recession of 2007, 2008, 2009, record labels had to reevaluate how they did business. And a singular artist is cheaper. You don't have to chase down three or four people for makeup or costumes, just one person. You don't have to get a band to play. You can run a track. And so there are all
Right.
sorts of different things that just make it more affordable.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been in a bunch of different bands too, and I learned early on with all the thing you said, bands get in disputes. I had that in the '80s in my bands, and eventually I just kind of bought everybody out because I was already
Yeah.
writing the music, and me and the drummer were paying to fund the albums. But during the MTV era, I think TLC might have been my favorite
Yeah.
female R&B group because of Waterfalls,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because they had that video, and I was like, man, who is this Lisa Left Eye gal? She looks crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. She,
we all fell in love with that music, but then you saw the public, like you said, the disputes. You saw the media jumped all over the disputes between those girls. And
yeah.
then they also, I saw this video, which I thought was interesting. They had these huge number one hits, and they hadn't got paid anything at all yet.
Yeah, yeah. If I was to create a course or write another book, I'd write it on the rise, fall, and rise of TLC because they have so many great lessons of the music business,
Hmm.
marketing, promotion. Like they did so many great things. They used video as a medium to really show the world where they were, and they grew basically out of Atlanta and grew to be international stars. They are one of only two female groups in U.S. history to have a diamond album. Only two groups history did it. They did it in the Dixie Chicks. And so, but then they didn't own their name. They didn't get any songwriting credits. It was the business part that they weren't apt to pay attention to early on, and
Ah,
it caught up to them. Then, when they wanted to get their name back, they didn't even own their name. They had to pay $3 million to
oh,
get their name back. 1 million for each letter, and
wow. Oh my
so
God.
there are just so many lessons that they experienced that would prove to be a great textbook and a cautionary tale for the current artists of today. And then
Mhm.
they came back, and then but they're still very successful. It's just that they've had to fight to get their name back to try to get some of their publishing royalties. Like they filed for bankruptcy. I want to say it was twice. There's no way that a group that has a diamond album should ever have to claim bankruptcy. Like that shouldn't be the case. And so there's just so many lessons within that it's just very valuable. People need to know so they can learn from them. And then we need to continue to support them because although we lost Lisa Left Eye Lopez, there's two others, Chili and the other young lady, I'm forgetting her name, Chili. I'll think of her name, but
Okay.
they're still around and they're still touring. T-Boz, they're still touring,
Oh yeah,
so we still
T-Boz.
need to
Yeah.
support them. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just I had all of the firsthand disappointment with the record deals and working with all the different companies, Warner Brothers and Indies and all that stuff. And I think probably for me it was a little easier to go through because I didn't have two other bandmates that were there like saying, hey, I contributed the writing to this song, and we used my parents' money to finance this tour and all that. But I'll tell you, there's really builds your character, all the suffering that you go through, regardless of what the genre is, and how the groups that no, I want to go backtrack because I don't know if everybody that's watching the show understands what a diamond album is. So could you
Ah,
explain what that
yes.
is?
Yeah, so you have diamond is when they have 10 million units sold or more. 10 million units or more. It goes like gold is 500,000,
Okay.
platinum is 1 million, diamond is 10 million. And so that's a very rare air. And now they have a formula where they include number of streams, so it's still adjusted to today's era, but back then it was just sales, and which is even more phenomenal. So people were buying their music left and right. So it's
Right.
10 million units sold or more.
Okay. So yeah, that's a lot of units. And in those days, I remember when my albums and everybody's albums were 14.95.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now the whole technological thing. Well, let's jump over to the EDM topic because um, I'm a keyboard player, as you might know, and as all of the technology with computers and synthesizers, and especially the samplers and all that, I watched and participated in a lot of electronic music, and I've done a lot of rap tracks and a lot of sampling, that kind of stuff. And for me, it was in 1993. I was in Switzerland. I can't remember what I was doing, but somebody invited me to a rave in the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, yeah.
I was on a tour with somebody, and I said, "What's a rave?" You know, and they said, "Oh, you'll see." So, it
Hmm.
was it was really an adventure in those days because there wasn't the internet yet. So,
Yeah.
they didn't. It wasn't being filmed and broadcast, and a lot of security and first aid and all that. It was just like a bunch of young people climbing into a huge place up in the Alps, playing loud music and going nuts. But I thought the EDM thing came more out of Europe, at least I thought.
Well, electronic dance music did kind of get
It
its
took off
genesis
there.
birth there. Then it got over to the U.S., became very popular, and then you would notice that there's two artists that like Neo. Neo is just like an R&B pop artist, but he started making EDM tracks. Usher did as well. You look at some of his catalog, kind of in the mid 2000s,
Uh-huh.
also making like EDM traps, the rapid kind of 120 beats per minute, like
Right.
fast tracks. Rihanna did a few also. So you see
Okay.
these artists that are traditionally like R&B kind of pop artists, they make the EDM tracks because that's relevant at the time, and they did well. So that just shows you how that genre crossed over and really started to be dominant. And then radio, based on my research and people who were on the record and off the record, made a decision that maybe we should play more EDM music because it's not talking about love. And, we don't want to kind of play music that's talking about love on the radio. EDM's a little bit more palatable. So they kind of shifted that way.
Uh,
And even with tracks like a Britney Spears track, when I'm trying to think of the track she had, like Scream and Shout. That's like an EDM track kind of underneath. And
ah,
so you'll see how even she went from pop to more EDM focus. So artists were adjusting along the ways, and that's just another factor in it. And it has become a very, very dominant genre. I have some favorite. I love like Calvin Harris, David Guetta. Those are
yeah.
like popular EDM artists and
Uh-huh.
producers who I
Right.
love their music. It's just that also led to less focus on radio and public for R&B groups.
Right. So it's interesting what your comment is that whoever the industry gurus are, the people in control of what we get to listen to and what we're exposed to and what gets promoted, they wanted to turn their focus away from love.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's so sad, man.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
love,
why?
love.
Well, why? I mean, why would you? You're the expert on this stuff. Why do you think they would do something like that? I don't really know. I mean, I felt the effects of it because I've done a lot of sexy music. I get pictures of the kids that were made to my
Yeah.
albums and stuff. But why would somebody in the industry say, "Okay, we're gonna not do that and do this other thing"?
It's a great question. I think that, in my opinion, love doesn't really sell as much as like controversy and drama and things like that. So if you have a group like Boys to Men who's going to sing about one sweet day, or water runs dry, they're singing about love and that, and just the people that were controlling what was heard on the radio, just they didn't want to have that as much on the radio as before.
Huh?
So they saw this other opportunity. This is all my opinion, that
Okay.
EDM is about partying and dancing and happy and no sadness. So they kind of chose that direction to go to because love and heartbreak. After a while, you don't want to talk about that. You just want to live in your fantasy world. So I think that on popular radio, that's kind of what they shifted to, because you'll still have like urban stations that'll play R&B groups, R&B music, but you used to hear it on every station. And
Right.
so that's the difference. They just kind of steered away and have yet to kind of return back. Like you'll look at like every once in a while, you look like the top 20, you'll see like a love song in there. Of course, Taylor Swift will sing one, or you have some popular songs of the era by the groups or the individuals, but like it's just different now. You don't see much about that, and people don't like to talk about it, and it's kind of like taboo to speak about it. But there definitely was a shift, and people off the record have commented on it. And so, if you look back at history in the top 20 and the top 50, you'll kind of see the differences. Now, every once in a while, there'll be a song that'll break through and it works. One of my favorite songs in like the mid 2010s, like Booed Up by LMA, that worked. But really, that song, it took it about a year to be out and be doing well on streaming to then get to radio. And so it's just very different nowadays. And this is kind of based on my research and then opinion.
Right. Well, same kind of thing happened with jazz, Quiet Storm, smooth jazz radio, because we actually, in that same era, when I was on Warner Brothers, we went to a big convention in Atlanta, radio and records and all that the old school world. And that was when the smooth jazz consolidators came in, and they handed all of us a brochure of what we were going to be allowed to do.
Yeah.
And, really, man, business is hard enough. And I picked the hardest one, being a jazz musician, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get a lot harder than that. And then I was always doing the music best I could, whatever I thought was cutting edge or whatever I liked, and based on the people that I knew in my community. And I had a fantastic violinist named Mark Cargill on my Dance for the New World album, which was right at that era. We finished recording in 96, releasing in 97. And those guys at that convention said, "We're not playing this music."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Why are you not going to play?" "Well, violin is not on our list of acceptable instruments." Can you believe that, man?
Yeah, I can, but it's unfortunate, but I can believe it. Yeah.
And harmonica was another one. Because Zebra/Warner Records had Lee Oscar, the world's most famous harmonica player at the time. Nobody would play his record.
Yeah.
And so then as artists, I remember all in 97, the labels going, "We got one chance with one song in here called Wednesday. We can that'll probably get by because it's not edgy." In the office place, they were dumbing down all the music for the office workers, bro.
Yeah.
That's what the smooth jazz thing was. And I think R&B got caught in the same kind of deal. So now here we are, it's all the way to 2026. What are we going to do? That's my next question.
Yeah.
How
That's
do
a
we
good
get
question.
things back to normal? Because I'm a fan of EDM, and I marveled at Skrillex's ability to change waveforms, 32 different waveforms in 2 milliseconds, and all those beats and everything. And Calvin Harris is amazing. I mean, he made a whole album. The entire album was at 128 beats a minute.
Yeah.
The whole record, man.
Yeah.
But he's a very unique talent. So is there a way to get through this media chokehold on radio? Because you're right, radio is still very important. I think it's more important than the streaming thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what can we do at this point?
Yeah, I think radio and streaming are more marketing now for artists. Unless you're in the top 1%, you're not going to make a lot of money off streaming. It's more marketing. I think there are some groups out there. One of my recent favorites is like Flow, who's from the UK, but they're a group that's doing well. They got nominated for a Grammy. I don't think they won. So that's a good sign. And so we need to, more groups. I think what I predicted is that you're going to see maybe you have established artists like a Leela James, a Jasmine Sullivan, a SZA, a Her. Maybe they'll come together and make an album together or two together. So you have already established artists that have their own communities and their fan bases come together, make a couple albums that are true R&B, and then maybe they do some individual projects. I think, Silk Sonic is a good example of that with Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak.
Oh, yeah.
So we just wanted to make more albums. So I think that's where the trend may go. You'll still have some R&B groups here that'll start from kind of their hometowns, but that's what I think will happen. Back in the day, most groups started from, they were together in like high school, junior high school, or maybe college, and they kind of stayed together and started together that way and grew and grew. And a lot of them started from the church.
Right.
And I think that's different now. Like groups in the church, it just doesn't happen that way. We went through this era where we had people trying to make groups out of reality shows that were designed to make groups, and they don't last very long because you're taking people from random backgrounds, and they just, after a while, they don't get along. It doesn't work. Whereas if you've grown up with someone, you've been in the church with them, and you all have been through the ups and the downs together, you're more likely to stick together and stay together to produce 2, 3, 4, 5 albums. And so I think that's the era we're coming from. I do think that you have established artists that might join together. I think some of the recent examples, I want to say it was like TGT, I think it was Tank. I forget it was like Levert, LSG, Levert, Johnny Gill, Keith Sweat. TGT was another one. I think, Wanye Morris, his sons have a group called One More. They're doing well. And so I think I'll see this kind of grow. Like you had Genuine, Tank, and like Tyrese Gibson. So those TGT. And they were kind of mid 2000s, 2010s. So I think you'll see things like that because they were established and then join a group, and they still have their solo careers. I think that's the trend that will come.
Okay.
Let's see what happnes.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that you're bringing church into the conversation because, anybody that watches an Aretha Franklin documentary will understand how important church was. And, well, especially in the Motown era, I mean, they were just picking people out of the churches and signing them to deals. And sadly, this is just a hypothesis of mine. I'm not a degreed professor like you, but what I saw happening in my own experience was once there was an internet to get people into a whole virtual world, they became, and I was a victim of that too when I first found out about the internet, because it was like, wow, man, this new thing, it's so exciting. But over time, what I noticed is like I stopped going to church. A lot of other people stopped going to church. And if you look at the graphs of church attendance since the internet got invented, you'll notice that churches have been on the decline for decades. Church attendance, and then people, the generations younger, like 2 generations younger than I am, that just grew up right with an iPhone in their hand and with the internet available, a lot of them, in the surveys, they say, if you could choose one, the internet or church for your future, what would you choose? And they all choose the internet.
Yeah.
If you're going to choose the Bible or the iPhone, it's going to always be the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a planned, destructive design on destroying the family unit and normal human society. And you could call me conspiracy theorist if you want, but I think the internet is, by and large, now don't get me wrong, there's lots of good stuff there, but by and large, I think it's just kind of isolated people, man.
Yeah, I won't. So I won't go as far as what you were saying about planned destruction, but I do think that the internet has brought us many, many, many good things. It has also made things more challenging. I think the internet, particularly when I look at an app like YouTube, which I love, but it has made things more singular. Like I'm in front of a camera, it's just me, I'm singing, I'm talking. It makes things more singular. Like Justin Bieber got big because he would record covers of songs and put them up on YouTube.
Right.
And so he was kind of the first one ever to take that, and then people follow along behind him. You don't really you'll see some groups on there and getting big, but that's just the internet kind of came right after the music recession and things like that. It didn't come after that, but it really got big for the music industry. So things are more singular. I did notice that. I did mention that in terms of the research. And, everything's going to more one-on-one instead of a group to many. So there's a shift. There's a shift there, but I still think there's a place for it. It's just that how do we cultivate, discover, and grow these groups?
Right.
And, that's for all genres.
Right.
Now, I will say that K-pop groups still do very, very well across the world. So there's 2 sides to that. First of all, if you look at a K-pop group, like you look at a BTS video, they're following the New Edition blueprint, in my opinion. There's distinct similarities between what New Edition did to what like a group like BTS does. If you look at a group like Blackpink, all-female group, they are following the TLC blueprint. And you can see similarities there. So they are kind of following the blueprint and then doing things better so they can stay around. So when I say we, I'm talking about like R&B groups specifically. What can we learn from what K-pop is doing to remain relevant, grow their fan base, sell out stadiums wherever they go? Like they're doing something right and they're a group. So the group concept still works. What can we learn from K-pop as a genre and adjust that to what we can do here for R&B groups and continue the success. So
Right.
that's kind of my thought process on the internet, because even though it's become very singular, K-pop's doing some things right. So what can we learn from them?
Right. Well, I like the fact that you brought in that term that I couldn't find, but with singular, because early on when the internet started impacting the music business and there was this huge influx of new music and pre-Napster and all that, and those of us that were indies who'd been dropped by major labels or been used as a tax write-off or shelved for whatever, we had a chance to get our music out again. So we were all excited about, wow, this is going to be totally great. And the internet was this wide open, free for all of Wild West fun, 90s, late 90s, me and my friends in all genres, we were all having a blast. That was great. But as Steve Jobs got in there and Bill Gates got more in there, then I noticed a shift just with the technology portion, because all of a sudden they were trying to shift people out of group behavior altogether, not just kill off the R&B band or kill off the concert band or the jazz choir, kill off the family, isolate every teenager with their own personal device that was just about them. And then it's really bad now, because I see the stuff that gets sent to me and sent to some of my students. And now, just technology-wise, like Apple Logic Pro is their music-making software. So in the last two versions, Apple 11 and Apple 12, you know what they actually say to you? They say, don't, and I'm adding in my language, don't leave your basement, don't leave your desk, don't call your friend who's a bass player. We have a fake bass player in the software now. Oh, you don't know how to play drums or sing background vocals? Hey, we know how to do that. Don't leave the computer. Stay online, stay online, stay online. Don't meet people. Stay in your house. Stay online, stay online. And when I do workshops and do my own, public speaking, that's the first thing I tell everybody, is that society is only going to improve when people leave their house. You have to leave your house. You have to have actual human friends. You have to form bands. You have to socialize. You have to eat together, talk, be in church, have families, make babies, do all that stuff. And the focus of the internet now is more and more isolating, in my opinion, especially to young people, because now, after Apple did all that, now we have AI music, and it's just, okay, type in a bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden here's a song. What do you think about AI? Because I guess that is getting more popular since your book came out about the
Yeah.
Storm. Do you
Yeah.
have any
So
opinions on that at this point?
sure, sure. Like, I think to go back to Apple, like they came out with iTunes, they decreased the value of the album and really just focused on the singles, because it went from you had to buy the album to get all the songs to you could
Right.
spend 99 cents and get a song. So that kind of decreased the value of the album and decreased the value of a song. Then after that got to be really popular, then you had Spotify come in with streaming, where you didn't have to pay anything. You could just let ads run and you can just listen to your music. So it really decreased the value of music and a song. And so that made it more complicated for artists to make money.
Right.
So we've lived through that and we see how it is. And, artists are like, I get paid less than, a penny per stream or whatever. It's a really low rate. And, if it takes years for you to get your revenue, whereas the streaming companies have, well, they used to probably still have like investors who are part of the major labels, etc. So it's just change. Then we add on top, we have AI music. And I think apps like Suno and Udio, I hope I said that right, like they can be good resources for musicians. If you want to make a reference track, you want them to help you along with your music theory,
Songwriting.
your
Right.
songwriting, your structure. It's very, very good for a resource. But a lot of people are just, using that to send out music. Like there's over 120,000 AI songs, I think, uploaded daily is the stat I heard.
Wow.
What I think though is that you have this AI music and it's fine. I think eventually they're going to add like a little label that says this song is made with AI and fully AI. They'll have different labels like they do with the movies or explicit content. That'll be coming soon. But I still think that as humans, we crave in-person experiences, which makes the tour and the concerts more and more valuable. Like you won't have an AI artist that can stand in front of a crowd and perform. I don't think so, not yet, even through a hologram. So that's where artists of today can still set themselves apart by being able to perform very well in person and captivate a group. Like there's nothing like an artist that's singing about heartbreak who has been through heartbreak and they're in front of an audience singing about it and their voice cracks and maybe they forget a word or they have to pause because they get too emotional. I don't think that AI can duplicate and replicate that kind of emotion spontaneously
Right.
because it's all programmed and that even you'll hear certain songs where an artist's voice might crack or break over the recording or they might go to a random key not on purpose but it works and
Mm.
those imperfections are what will make music even more valuable. For example, back in the day when Jimi Hendrix sang the national anthem, not sang, he played the national anthem on his guitar, it was something no one had heard before and at first they hated it. But
Wow.
eventually, it became known as one of the classic renditions of the national anthem. Whereas the way you program AI, like it won't be able to do something like that because it hasn't been done before. So anything that hasn't been done before, that's for humans to create and share. And I think that's where the goal is for artists, their live shows, emotion, and just being themselves on stage and not programmed. That's a long answer to your question, but that's my answer.
Well, I totally get it, man. I think you're very wise in what you're saying with that. I just you know get a lot of questions about it. Many of my friends, as part of I'm part of the Grammy Academy and all that kind of stuff, and pretty much everybody is using AI for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and me being both an R&B and a classical and a jazz person and producer, I like the fact that doing a solo piano set as an artist live in front of people or a live jazz trio, I don't think on the live side that's going to get replaced.
I would agree.
But here's the crazy part is that if you're watching cable TV or Netflix or whatever, or the NBA channel, now there's all this background music that I used to make that kind of music. A lot of other people did. And you'll be listening along there in the airport or whatever, and you're hearing this thing that kind of sounds like a trio playing Girl from Ipanema by Jobim.
Yeah.
But right when it gets 4 bars in where it's going to be a copyright infringement, the chords go somewhere different. And then you
Yeah.
listen a little closer, you're like, that's not a real drummer. Oh, no, that bass, no bass player would make that jump right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I started seeing those channels jump up on YouTube for the all over Korea and Japan. It was jazz for your homework.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
background music. And when I would listen to that stuff, I thought, man, if I could get my music on these jazz for the homework channels, I get 10 million views a month. This is incredible. And then as I learned more about it and talked to people, I found out, and this was 10 years ago, all of that music was fake.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, none of it was actual players. It was all computer generated. And then that's where we get it, you can get out in the weeds on how much computer uh, portion of the production should you use and how much should be live. And I think the live thing is still going to get cranking, but how are musicians supposed to make a living? I mean, I came up in an era where you could teach, which I still do. You could write, which I do. You could play out, which I do. You can produce uh, songs and get them out there. All of those things, which I still do the combined thing to make my living. But I guess, what do you suggest if
Yeah.
there's a young person and they've been to your website, which is a beautiful website, by the
Mm-hmm.
way,
Thank you.
and very well organized and exciting? People go to his website. I'll actually have it in the
Yes.
link, but it's the main one to start with. I think is the website is called thequietstormbook.com.
That'll get you to the book. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then my My other website is amaniexperience.com. And so I love the question you asked about what can a young musician who's just coming into the game
Yeah, what do they
do to.
do? What are
So
they
I
gonna
think
do?
I think now it's about building your own world or your own universe. Like, you know how they have Marvel Universe? Well, you have to build your own universe as an artist. And what
Okay.
I teach and work with my clients on is you have to build your universe. Of course, you have to release music, put it up on the streaming platforms. I think you also have to create some sort of direct fan to artist presence. My two favorite kind of ways for my artists to do that is they create a Patreon where people can donate and subscribe to you on a
Hmm.
monthly basis. You give them inside access. You give them behind the scenes footage. You maybe allow them to request certain songs you might want to cover. You have
All right.
monthly Zooms. So that's one. Another one is Bandcamp. I'm a big fan of Bandcamp because you can put your music up there for purchase. If you list the album for $9.99, someone loves you, they can pay you $20. In all of these, though, you're also getting your fans' email addresses. It's really important to get the email addresses. I know there's a big focus on growing your followers and all that, but you really want to focus on your owned media properties, which is your website and your social media list. It's kind of gray. Do you own your Instagram followers? Do you own your Facebook followers? Not really, because the platforms can go away at any moment.
Right.
They'll give you any data, etc.
Right.
So that's one part of your universe. Then you have to go on tour. You have to perform, whether it be local, national, international. You have to go touring, and that's how you primarily musicians in the short term make a lot of money. Is you go on tour, you get play at your venues, you get the money. In addition, you have your merchandise. People can buy your merchandise wherever they are. And merchandise can be shirts, it can be hoodies, it can be stickers, it can be posters, vinyl, have it all. So that people can support you and buy it because we still as humans like tangible things. And like I'm wearing a hoodie now, Howard hoodie, all that. Like it's really important. So that's one arm. Then you still need to make sure that you have all your royalties taken care of, whether that be signing up with your performance rights organization, whether it be ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC here in the US. Just do that. So if by chance your songs are played in public, you can get some money that way. So now you see we're building different revenue sources for that. Then you can get into making sure you sign up for like Song Trust to get your publishing. If you're like at kind of a small level, Sound Exchange to get your digital royalties if your songs are played on XM Radio, Sirius XM, iHeartRadio, etc. So I'm setting people up with their universes and all that. Then you have the marketing. You have your email list, you're growing it. What's your lead magnet? If someone comes to your website and they want to learn more about you, what are you going to give them so that you can get their email address and stay in touch? Take it one step further. What can you give them so you get their cell phone number? If you get their cell phone, then you get direct communication. It's really important. So you can see how we've built probably 7 or 8 arms of the universe, and then you can monetize each one. Also, you want to get your music into TV shows, commercials, films, video games. Of course, they might use some AI music, but more and more frequently, you're having the music supervisors, who are the ones that are responsible for finding the music, they're requesting music that is made by humans. So that's really important. So what can you do to meet music supervisors, meet sync agents, so you can then work on getting your music into these properties? Now, that's the long game. That'll take at least 6 to 12 months to really get some wins, but you have to start now. So I've just kind of explained a good 8 or 9 different ways that musicians can earn money. They can still teach, they can still give lessons. That's the basic that works too. But that will help musicians build their own universe that is consistently feeding them revenue at different times of the year so that they can be a working musician and be a happy, unstressed sort of working musician. So
Yeah.
that's what I teach people.
Well, I love how well organized and defined your plan is because I've operated with that same kind of thing. I didn't study with anyone to learn it, but I just came up with the idea many years ago as I would play on I'd play on a song with the Crusaders, and then I would do a live show with a Indian artist, and then I would be doing straight ahead jazz with some band, and then I would be with a R&B group at a college tour, and I just finally thought to myself, what am I going to call it when I put all that together? So what my term is ecosystems,
Yeah.
and I know you use that term too. And the whiteboard behind me in my studio is so huge I couldn't even lift it. But I'm going to turn around for a second. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 main categories: Denver, LA, the internet, India, um, recording studio, record companies, and analytics. And then subcategories, about 16 things down on each one. And it's interesting too, because you really find out, like I have like 8 people in India, 10 people in LA, and 6 in Denver. And then as the year goes by, when I look over there, I'm like, okay, I had 2 people that pooped out in India. I'm not going to worry about that, but I'm going to focus more on these 4 other people because they actually really supported me when I went over there.
Yes.
And they're interested in me doing more stuff with them. And I can meet more Indian musicians in America that are doing crossover Indian jazz, like Charles Suri that I met. And the ecosystem thing works really well because obviously everything we're talking about is not musical. This is strictly business. And I tell people, and you might have an opinion on this, I struggle with trying to do business and music on the same day. I can almost never shift my brain because it's the other side of my brain that makes me love and create and feel and be human and produce and get excited and in touch with, everything that's like that. And man, all it takes is like one text from my CPA and I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I can lose the whole rest of the day because like you're missing 4 1099s and we have 6 hours left to file. So I mean, I'm sure you have similar.
Right. Well, I like how you said ecosystem. That's a comparative word to like universe. So I like that. I
Right.
think what I try to teach my clients is that you are a business. I know you're a musician and I know you want to play out and sing, but you are a business and you need to realize that first and foremost, because if you don't realize that and you treat it like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. If you treat it like a business, it's going to pay you like a business. And so even as little as your email. So I am a little stickler for if you're going to be an artist, you need to get your artistname.com. You need to get that. You need to have a info@artistname.com. I know you might want to use Gmail, but I'm of the belief that once you have your artistname.com, that levels you up. That's something simple. You have a website, artistname.com, because it just shows you're taking it seriously. People that you're trying to work with are going to take you more seriously than if you have a Gmail. That's the first thing. And then you also mentioned like in terms of artists and kind of how they treat it as a business, like you can build a team. It's okay to get help. You can invest in yourself, which will give you more time to create. Maybe you don't really maybe you don't really like to create graphics and posters and social media. Well, you can find some people out there that will do it with you. You might have to pay them, but that time and money will be well spent if you can focus more on your creating and let them focus on the social media. So I always encourage artists to be able to philosophy like it's okay to invest in yourself. Like I perform the role of like a fractional artist manager. I'm going to teach you about the business and I'm also going to help you manage it wherever you need help. And so it's okay to invest. That's okay. You might have to spend some money in the beginning, but the long run you're going to be saner, you're going to have more time to create, and you're going to generate more revenue, and you're going to have someone that can identify your blind spots and be comfortable sharing them with you. So I just artists, you're a business first because they call it the music business for a reason. And so I just really love to reiterate that to everyone because that shifts your mindset and you just have to approach it that way because if you're not looking out for your business, you can't depend on someone else to look out for you either.
Right, that's absolutely true, man. And I just have found that the compartmentalization thing is something I still really have to work on. And I had to hit a certain point too where I'm looking at my overall list of goals. I think everybody needs to set a goal, have a goal for every single week of what you're going to get done with your music, with your personal life, with your business stuff. And I'll look at my charts that I keep and I'll say, man, I haven't practiced any piano for 2 weeks. I haven't even played any piano. And I have a show
Mm-hmm.
in 3 days. And I mean, yesterday I had I play in a couple of different bands besides my own, but I was sitting in the studio in the morning and I was thinking, man, I better get to the piano and start running some finger exercises because I actually haven't practiced anything for a week. So, I think it's hard. Even, if you're an established artist like me, I think it's harder for the young people because you already outlined like 9 different areas that they need to get on. And I'm going to pile on and say, practice your instrument, work on
Yeah.
your sight reading, do your technique, get your backing tracks going, write your songs, do comparative analysis, send your MP3s into you for
Yeah.
it's not fictional, it's fractional management.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's so much stuff to do
Yeah. Yeah.
to do the music business the way it is now. And I think, anybody that can organize themselves, and I think it's great that you're helping people organize themselves for this kind of stuff too. So,
Yeah.
man, well, I know we could do this all day.
Yes.
I just wanted to tell people a little bit more about some of these hospitality and music expertise things and organizations that you have partnered with and worked on. Because one of my big fans, based out of Atlanta, is a guy who was a jazz fan and a hospitality guy. His name was Reginald Washington, and he was the head of the National Restaurant Association for
Mm.
years. And we met in a funny way because I was playing at this kind of celebrity steakhouse thing with a jazz trio in LA. And he came in and he was at the bar and he just kept turning around and telling me, I play a few bars and be like, Moonlight in Vermont. Like, oh, that's Take the A Train. I went over and started talking to him. Now we've been friends for years, but he had a love for jazz piano and music, but he was a hospitality guy. And I think your combined thing, it says master's degree in music business from Berkeley, a background in hospitality management from Howard, which you got the shirt on, of course, which is awesome. But organizations that have acknowledged you and hired you for your expertise: Taco Bell, Calendly, Barcliff, LA Times, 7-Eleven, Water and Music Meetings Today, Forbes, Marriott. I mean, bro, the list goes on and on, man.
Thank you.
it
Thank you.
goes it goes on and on. So the best way, I guess, for someone to reach out to you if they want to hire you for something or sign up for one of your workshops or classes, because I know that, is it best to just email you through the website? Is that the way?
The best way is if you go to amaniexperience.com/call, CALL, and
Uh-huh.
Amani is spelled like A like Apple, M like Mary, A like Apple, N like Nancy, I like Iceland. And amaniexperience.com/call. Send me a message,
Okay.
and we'll get on a free call. We can talk about whether you want to hire me, whether you want to learn from me, and that's the best way to get into my ecosystem.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I thought this was a really fun hour. We've already been at it for an hour, if you
I
can even
know.
believe that. But I really appreciate that you reached out to me to be on the show via Reggie Parker, because Reggie is one of those cats, man.
Hmm.
Like the streets of Brooklyn. He's no nonsense. And when I got your email and you were referencing the podcast I did with him, I love cats like that, man, because very helpful, very streetwise, and obviously you're taking that to the next level. So,
Yeah.
all right, Amani has been my guest today. Amani Roberts, fantastic music business expert, R&B aficionado, and you can find him on the web. And then I'll put all your social stuff
Yes.
in the links and everything. So, all right, folks, that's wrapping it up. Another episode for the Planet Mullins podcast. I'll have to get Rob Mullins at robmullins.com one day.
Yes. Immediately. Get it right away. Yes.
I think there's a guy that sells vacuum cleaners, already has it out of
Yeah.
Wichita.
So
Uh,
you can get then you get the robmullins.com, but
yeah,
our official Rob Mullins, but you get
yeah.
something. Get your name. So yes.
Yeah, I got Planet Mullins out there, but I've
There
already
you
had
go.
a few people tell me. All right, folks, we're wrapping it up. And thanks so much, man. This is the end of the show. See you guys on the next one.